Good to have you on the show once again. This is Like Real It by Omobola Stephen. I'm your host, Omobola Stephen. Now, on Like Real It, we like to focus on personal development and self-improvement topics because we've come to realize how important personal development and self-improvement is. Now, all the innate gifts set, all of the potentials that lies within us can only come to the fore, and we can only maximize and enjoy these benefits or the bounties that lies within when we personally look inwards for the answers. And when the answers come, then we begin to harness these potentials by personally developing ourselves and self-improving ourselves in the long run. Now, I have expert and professionals who are adept in these topics, who have disruptive mindset conversations and insight to share to the audience of that World by Omobola Stephen. Today, I have Chantall Landreville, who is an author. She's also a certified relationship coach and a woman connector. Welcome to Live Well Chantall Landreville.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and have this conversation with you.
So great to have you on the show, Chantall. I'm so happy to have you and looking forward to a great time. You're a certified relationship coach and woman connector. And so we were talking about relationship. Now, relationship is all life is about, and life is about relationship. So let's begin with this question. What does it mean to have a relationship with oneself?
Oh, that's such a good question. We're diving right into it. You know, having a relationship with oneself is allowing yourself to really hold space for you and your needs. You know, we were just slightly talking about this before we pressed record. And I think that a lot of people today in relationship tend to forget who they are and themselves to focus on the other. And when we talk about healthy relationships, it's really honoring and listening to yourself and not being afraid to share your boundaries, how you feel, and what it is that you need. And not just in romantic relationship, but this in the workforce, with your friends, with your family. And that's a massive case of self-love, if you ask me. So relationship with self is one, self-awareness, really knowing yourself and getting the time to know yourself, to understand and be able to communicate what are your needs, how do you feel, why do you react or get triggered certain ways, right? If you don't know these things yourself, how can you share that in any relationship? So relationship with self is definitely self-awareness and getting to know who you are and being okay with who you are and learning to communicate that to others. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, Chantall, but getting to know who you are, getting to know what stuff you're made of. We talked about self-worth and self-value. Now, don't you think that's a really long step, a long way to go in terms of looking at relationship? I want to dive into relationship, but first I need to fall in love with myself before I begin to think of falling in love with another person. What's your take on this?
I totally agree with that. Being a single person for over almost 18 years, one of the things that I realized as I was so focused on outside validation, so not being in relationships for the right reason. So if you do not love yourself first, and there's a famous line that I always say to my clients, and I actually quote in the book, is that your partner can only love you as much as you love yourself. So how you choose to love yourself is the result you're actually going to attract or get around you. If you do not have any form of self-love, you're setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment, or as I love to say, like low-hanging fruit. So the relationship that you develop with yourself and your self-love is really, really important. And these are not things that develop easily for everybody. I mean, you're talking to a woman that was in the whole personal development for over 20 years. And my relationship with self-love only happened when I turned almost 44 years old. So that's not a very, very long time ago. I'm 49 now. So it's a journey, it's a process, but I think that it's not something that we've been taught how important it is. We're talking more about it today, thank God, through a lot of the social media platforms. And but yeah, that's self-love is definitely a big piece of the of the success in any relationship.
So now we've not been taught about relationships the way you said it, and we also haven't been taught about what true love is. Can you share your insight on what really is true love or finding love?
Oh, that has many layers to it. What really is true love? I will say this by my own personal experience. You know, we have been taught a lot. What we have been taught about love so far is a big lie. We've been very rom-com and disneyfied about what love is, right? I think that when you look at what's happening on TV, even still today, all the movies, all the TV shows have this really rom-com perception on what it is, that you're supposed to run off in the sunset with your white horse and your partner and everything's going to be okay. And I've come to realize through my own personal journey and writing my book and making sure to teach people a new perspective about what true love actually means. And this is something that it's built over time. And it's something that's built around trust. And it's something that you develop once you feel safe. So I have been in my relationship now for 5 years. And I would say that when I first started dating my boyfriend, there were no fires or fireworks and butterflies like a lot of people are looking for when they're on the quest for love. And I had chosen to see a different perception on this because all of that stuff had never worked for me before. So we got to know each other at a very, very slow pace. And I had done my list of things I needed, not things that I wanted. And we can elaborate about this a little bit more later. But the value system and my deal breakers, and because I had a lot of self-awareness now, I knew what really mattered to me on how I wanted to grow and evolve in a relationship. And one of the things was being accepted for who I was. I'm a huge butterfly, meaning I have this massive sense of freedom. I used to travel a lot for work. I was in a very massive, socially engaging job with a lot of men. So I could not be with someone that was insecure or possessive. So what I've learned over the last 5 years is that I'm now experiencing what true love is. And that's only been built with time and trust. And it's the support system. It's how we have each other's back. It's how I feel safe in my relationship to express myself. And I know that my partner will hear me and focus on the solution. And we do this, obviously, it has to be reciprocated. But that for me is what true love is. It's not the butterflies and the romance and everything that we're told that we think love is. It's much deeper than that, and it's built only with time. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
All right. But really, it's built with time. We all know that. Thanks for sharing that with me. Now you talk about love. But really, why do we have love in a relationship? Why does it have to go all wrong? Or why does it most times go wrong?
I think because people have extremely high expectations. We live in a world today where, instant gratifications, we want things the way we want. Hence why I talk a lot about in my book, the difference of understanding wants and needs. Wants are typically very self-absorbed, where needs are deal breakers. They're like air and water that you cannot live without. And I think that when people go into love or searching for love, it's they don't think about how they're going to grow and evolve in a relationship. We think about the partner right away. I want her to be like this. I want him to be like this. I want this. I want that. But what are you actually bringing to the table into the relationship? How are you willing to invest time and yourself and step up to the plate for your partner as well? So I think people forget that a relationship are two people coming together that have the willingness to service each other's needs, wants, and desires. And it's often just a one-way street. And that's not what a relationship is about. A relationship, and I have this thing that I describe in the book, that a relationship is a threesome, actually. It's you, your partner, and the actual relationship. The relationship as an entity of its own. And you always have to think, how am I going to show up in my relationship? How is what I'm going to say or not say, or my attitude, or being triggered, or how is this going to service the relationship? And most of the time, this is something that people do not think about. We're not getting what we want the way we want it. So we tend to, go into attitude mode or make our partners pay for it. And that's not what our being in a relationship is all about. It's more about listening, hearing, acknowledging, and then sharing the solution between us. So I think that's why a lot of the relationships do not work. It's really, really high expectations, and people are really afraid to invest the time that it takes to get to know someone that has baggage and has stories that they're working through as well. So this does not happen in a month or 3 months. We need to allow ourselves to get to know each other, to also work through our steps together, so we know how to manage ourselves in relationship going forward.
Now, Chantall, why do you have to wait this long for you to get into loving relationships?
Why did I have to wait? Or are you talking about people in general?
I'll use yours as a case study to my audience.
So as a case study, so I was single for almost 18 years. I was in a very long-term relationship, very young, from 19 to about 26 years old. And I was a young girl moving to the big city of Montreal from a small town called Ottawa. And I met an older gentleman that was 7 years older than I was. And I think he became a very quickly a father figure for me, because he was introducing me to a whole new world I had no idea about. So I was looking up to him. And a few years into our relationship, I started wanting to be myself, or stepping into my personality, which was an issue for him. It created this imbalance. And I ended up leaving the relationship because I was like, how can I be with someone that feels threatened by who I am and is not okay with me being me? And from that moment on, I decided that I wanted to do and explore a bunch of things. And that took me on a 10-year journey. And I went a little crazy, and that was fine. But after my 10 years was done, I was like, okay, I'm ready. Here I am. I want to find someone. I want to be in a relationship. I've done everything I wanted to try and experience. But I realized I was my own worst enemy, because I had this subconscious belief that men abandoned me because I lost my father when I was very young. Now we're going into very deep stuff, but I always say, and I talk about this in the book, it's really important to understand where you come from. If you want to understand why you're not attracting the relationship that you're looking for, you need to understand why you show up in a relationship or not the way you do. And that's it's rooted to childhood. So for me, as a 2-year-old, when I lost my father, the first man I ever loved, the first man I got to know, and left me and never came back, my subconscious mind registered that men abandon and left you. So hence why I was consciously choosing to be in relationship with men that I knew were unavailable emotionally. So I was great at long distance relationship. I was great with younger men. I was really good at attracting already taken men as well, because it was a way for me to stay in control. So the only way I broke that pattern and that cycle is, one, through therapy and really getting to have that self-awareness. And then it took a few years to rewire my brain, because here's the thing. When we've been doing that most of our lives and we don't have the self-awareness and we don't know why we act the way we do, that's why I say how important it is to develop the self-awareness component. How can you change it? You can't change if you don't know why you're acting and being a certain way. And then once you find out what that is, how can I rewire my brain that I've been thinking like this? In my case, it was 38 years of my life that I had been functioning like this. So these things do not change overnight. So that's why it took me such a long time to find my person. I had some work to do on myself. And I would say that the biggest chunk for me that came later in life was really accepting my self-worth. I did not feel worthy of receiving the kind of love that I was craving and desiring. And that came through different experiences and different men that I met that took me and gave me the last piece of the puzzle. So I always say that through your dating journey, for people that are still single out there, instead of saying, why isn't this working? What about saying, what did I need to learn, or what do I still need to learn and apply to get me to my destination? And that was a massive game changer for me.
Absolutely. I believe that's the main focus of Library Olives by Omobola Stephen. We focus on personal development. And now our discussions like to focus on discussions and insights that is going to shatter old paradigms and also the faulty belief systems and programming that have been to hinder our progress in life, in our relationships and all facets of life. Moving forward, you are a human connector, and I would like us to talk about human connections. Chantall, why is human connection so powerful, yet it's very difficult?
This is something I've been talking a lot about in the last couple of weeks, and one of my favorite topics. So I was actually doing research for Valentine's Day. I was writing an article for a magazine that wanted to know the different, how are people showing up in the different generations. So they asked me, especially for Gen Z, which I was like, oh, I'm not that age. I need to figure out what it is. So I started doing some digging and research in the different generations on how we show up dating and if things have changed. And the one thing that I've noticed across the board, whether you're 20 or whether you're 60 or 30, is that there has never been more of a time where we are craving. And I'm for sure that, COVID had a massive impact on that, but we are craving human connection more than ever. But the one thing I've noticed is that people are disconnected from wanting to be connected because of fear. People are really fearful of getting their heart hurt and investing the time in getting to know people. And like I said earlier, the only way you can have deep, meaningful connection is through time. And funny enough, a couple of weeks ago, I was actually in a retreat up in Maui with 8 other strangers. And this was the light that really shone on me at that moment. Was as I was thinking about all of this, I'm like, people are going to ask me, how do we do it? How do we invest the time? And I don't know if I want to invest the time. And because of that weekend, I was only 3 days with 8 other human beings that I had never met. But we invested the time in those 3 days. We were very present to the moment, and we created a sense of safety to be able to share, to be able to be vulnerable, and to be able to open our hearts. And I got to know people on a level I would have never gotten to know, because we had that space, because we invested the time. And I think that one of the things that people do not do is they do not create a safe space for people to open up. And we really struggle with wanting to open our hearts. And if you want to experience a deep, meaningful connection, the only way to do that is to open your heart. Whether that means you're going to get hurt or not, it's a chance that you have to take, because these things won't happen. So I think if I can leave people with one thing when we talk about that, to have deeper human connections, is make the time to get to know someone, even if it's on a friendship level. Today, I find that people are really great on the texting. What about having a phone call or going for a coffee date and really saying, how are you doing? How is life treating you? Other than like talk about the blue skies and the weather, right? That's not deep, meaningful connections. How are you? It's showing interest in people and really caring. That's how you develop deep human connections, and not just only in romantic relationships. It's showing an act of care and interest, and being curious and listening and being present to what the person is saying, and not necessarily to be able to tell them what to do and how to manage them. It's just about holding space for them. So if I tell you this, how does that make you feel? Do you not feel like you would want to have a coffee date with me? And we would dive deep into really great conversation, Omobola?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chantall Landreville for sharing that. We want to move from that. Now we'd like to move to the workplace. We like to talk about workplace culture, moving into the workplace culture. Now we understand that true human connection in the workplace is harder to find. And sure, it's harder to find than ever before, and it's taking a toll on employee retention and also engagement. Chantall, what's your take on this?
I think that, again, that's, you think about the workforce, for example, where people are working, again, remotely. Not everybody is going back to the office, or they're going back only a couple days a week. So this is a place where, again, we need to show up. We need to create this space. If you're sick and tired of being at home and not having and experiencing human connection, you need to say so, and you need to create space for it. So I do think for all leaders out there, if they want to create community amongst the workspace, which is super important, because there's one thing that we all share as human beings, other than wanting to experience love and be loved and be acknowledged, is community and purpose. We want to know that we matter, that we have a mission in life. Everybody needs that. And it's actually proven to help you live a longer, healthy life, is having that purpose. So if you are a leader, I invite you to create time and invest the time to create that space for your employees. It's super important. So once a week or maybe once a month, create a out of office afternoon or activity, or we're doing dinner together. So it doesn't need to be a 3-day journey, but I think that once a week for me, if I had a full-on team, I say, every Friday we come to the office and we have lunch together, and it's like a 2-hour commitment, and let's exchange and see how we're doing, what's going on. So again, it's showing interest and being curious and caring about who you're surrounded with. And people, when they feel that, they're like, oh, somebody's interested in me. That creates community. That creates human connection.
Absolutely. Now, going forward, can you share the types of human communication that we all need in life? Any?
Yes. So one of the things that I talk about, because I have a communications masterclass that I teach, because again, we've never been taught anything about love, relationship, and we've certainly not been taught anything about how to communicate, which I think are skills that they should be teaching kids in school today. So when we are going through whatever it is, there's the 4-step process that I talk about, which is learning to listen actively, not passively. Number one, listen actively. And when I say listen actively, it's like really being present to what I'm hearing. Most people listen passively, which is like, I'm hearing you talk. I'm already thinking about how am I going to respond? What am I going to say? Versus just listening, right? So listening actively creates space for you to really hear what the person wants to share with you. Number 2 is acknowledge. I am hearing what you are saying, because when we are speaking our truth, we want to make sure we are being heard. If you are speaking and you don't feel heard, how does that make you feel? Unseen, nobody cares. I'm not being heard. So acknowledge what the person in front of you is saying. So listen actively instead of passively, acknowledge. And number 3, I love to say, what's the solution? What can I do to make this better? So when someone is sharing the story, you acknowledge, thanks for sharing, or I understand how you're feeling. I didn't realize this was happening to you. It's saying, or it's showing a form of empathy. And this in a workspace is amazing. It's been a huge, huge game changer, because can you imagine if you go to your boss and you share, this is happening, I don't know what to do, and your boss says, you can figure it out on your own. How does that make you feel? Unsafe, unseen, unheard. You're just like, meh. Versus your boss says, oh, I didn't know you were feeling this way, or you were experiencing this. What can I do to help? Let's figure out a solution to make this better. You as an employee are just like, wow, I just felt heard. I feel honored and respected by this person. I'm going to show up more for them. And as human connection and being a human connector, if you can test these 3 practices, in every area of your life with any relationship, you're going to see how things are going to transform for you, not only in how your friendships or all of your relationships dynamics are, but even for yourself, because then you can apply these things as well, right? So these are 3 tips that I say: listen actively, acknowledge, find the solution, not focus on the problem, because focusing on the problem doesn't solve anything, right?
Yeah, quickly, your book, Raise Your Love Signal. Raise Your Love Signal. Tell me a bit about it.
Oh, this book, yeah, this book, thank you for the opportunity. So this is a guide to attracting and keeping the love of your life. So because I had been on such a challenging journey finding love myself, the one beautiful thing that came out of this was the 20 years that it took me to get here and the tens of thousands of dollars it cost me in therapy and different conferences and courses that I took, which were great. So the book is literally the top of all the best of everything that I've learned over the last 20 years and that I've applied to my own personal life, and I still apply today, that has gotten me to be in this beautiful relationship, healthy, not only with my man, but also with me as a person. So I could lose my relationship to my amazing man tomorrow and still feel really, really solid and grounded, because my relationship to myself is the most important. And I've put myself first. So that's what the book is about. So it's divided in 3 love lessons. Love lesson number 1 is really getting clear on your want, right? Most people that are looking for love think they know what they want, but they really don't when I do these exercises through them. And as I talked a little bit earlier, the wants, the needs, getting clear on the relationship vision, not just focusing on the partner. Love lesson number 2 is yourself. Let's get to know who you are. Is your self-love there? And how do you get to it? Your self-worth, understanding why you show up in relationship the way you do or not, and not just in romantic relationship, in all of your relationships. So this is a love lesson that's a little deeper, that we have to dive down into your childhood. And then the love lesson number 3 is everything you need to know to help you through your dating journey, to make sure you don't get lost or compromise yourself, and the fundamentals that you need to put into place at the beginning of the relationship to make sure you set yourself up for success. Because most people go into relationship in the honeymoon phase, 4, 5 years come by, they start getting angry, resentful, and it's too late to change anything. And they wait till often the fire is burning, the bridge is burning, to go get help, and it's too late. So a lot of things in this book is to help you make sure that you're set up for success from the beginning to the end, not just, attracting the right person, but making sure that you can succeed in relationship as well. So that's my book.
Thanks so much, Chantall Landreville, for sharing this exciting topic with my audience on the show. Chantall, I'm excited about your project. Tell me about it. Any?
My project, well, yes. So the book is officially launching on February 14th, so it's available for pre-order. I'm throwing a beautiful Valentine's Day party because we have to celebrate the Day of Love. And I am also planning these worldwide events that are called Let's Wine About Love, because I worked in the wine business for 20 years. So I was always like, before becoming a certified love and relationship coach, how can I bring these 2 passions together? And how can I create an environment where conscious people can come together? People that are doing the work, that want to meet quality partners. So these seminars that I organize, wine is the excuse, but I do these seminars that talk about all kinds of things that you need to succeed in relationship and through your dating journey. So at the same time, we mingle, we network, and you can meet people, like-minded people that are where you are in your journey. So I do these corporately as well. They're great activities to use if you have a business, especially if you want to learn how to integrate communication in your workspace or even in your work. The topics can be selected with your needs. And book number 2 is already on its way, and that should be available for next year. And if people want some one-on-one coaching, I am also available for that, because sometimes I wouldn't be where I am today without the numerous coaches I hired in my life, or the therapist, or, you know, whatever works for you. It's important to get the guidance and the help that you feel you need to get you to the other side.
Right. Any parting words you like to share with the audience? And like to have your social media handles on your website so we can reach out.
Yeah, so my website is raiseyourlovesignal.com, and through the website you can find the link to buy or pre-order the book until it's released on February 14th. You can also find all my socials on there, but the one platform that I am the most active on is Instagram, so you can find there. My name is Chantall.Landreville, and I'm sure you'll put that in the show notes. And I would say, as a last word, I truly invite you to think about your relationship with love. And this is how my project all started, was asking people, what is love to you? And when I kept on hearing what people's answer was, I was like, wow, we've actually never really dug into this. And love was always about other people. It wasn't about ourselves. So the 2 questions that I love to leave the audience with is, what is your relationship to love? And what do you want your relationship to love to be going into the future? If you are not in a relationship, if you're struggling in your relationship, these are 2 important questions to ask yourselves. Because if your relationship with love is toxic, if your relationship with love is always being a giver and not learning to receive, you will be in unbalanced relationships all the time, because love is not only about giving, it's also learning to receive. And I'm talking to a lot of the women out there that are used to always giving, especially if you're a mother. You need to allow yourself to receive. And that means you need to open your heart. If you don't open your heart and allow yourself to receive, you're in unbalanced relationship, and not just in romantic relationships, in all of your relationships. So that's it.
Appreciate your thought once again, Chantall Landreville. You are a certified relationship coach in Hotel, and also a women connector. Really had a great time listening to your thoughts, your expertise on relationships, and also on women connection. I wish you best of luck in this book project and in all the subsequent projects that you embark upon, Chantall.
Thank you, Omobola. I really appreciate it. It was nice to talk to you. Thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure once again. Now, if you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of Live Well Lit, you can do so on any cross-promotion platforms or podcast distribution platforms. You bump into online. Do have a great time as you listen to experts and professionals, even thought leaders share their thoughts and disruptive mindset conversations or topics or subjects on the personal development and self-improvement. Remember that personal development and self-improvement is a lifelong process we almost embrace in life. In order for us to transform from where we are to where we need to be, is a constant effort that we need to put on. But I guarantee you, if you don't give up, you will see the tremendous changes that you really desire. Till I come your way, I need you to stay safe always. I talk to you soon. Oh my love.